I went to the range, sick of low left, and fixed it in one session with a single grip tweak that legends like Bill Jordan, Rex Applegate, and Rob Leatham have used. What's up? This is Luke from Line 45. Today, I'll show you the crush grip, the exact drills that lock it in, and how to shave inches off your groups fast, minus the shenanigans. Before we dive in, do me a solid. Smash that subscribe, tap the bell, hit all the dang buttons down there. You don't gotta, but it keeps this train rolling and lets me crank out more of this wild gun talk for y'all. Alright, enough of that, let's get back to it. The overnight change. When I say one grip change made me a better shooter overnight, I'm dead serious. I was pulling shots low left every damn time, and it wasn't from lazy trigger work or bad sights. I dug into what's actually going on, and turns out, it's biology. When you pull the trigger, the rest of your fingers tend to move too. It's called sympathetic movement. And it happens because your flexor muscles are all tied together. That's why even skilled shooters fight that low left dip. Studies on hand biomechanics show that isolating the index finger is physically hard since the tendons overlap. You can't fix that just by telling yourself to press the trigger slow. At that point, I realized I was fighting my own anatomy instead of working with it. So I started looking into what competitive shooters do differently. Guys like Rob Leatham and Bill Jordan always talk about total grip pressure being the key. When you crush the grip with every finger except the trigger finger, you're forcing those tendons to max out. That prevents any unwanted movement when you pull the trigger. Once I started doing that, my sights stopped dancing, and I could finally call every shot. I'll be honest, the first few tries made my hands shake like crazy. But once I kept training with dry fire and some grip drills, my groups went from 8 inches to 3 in one range trip. No new gun, no new sights, just pure grip control. Bet, it's the simplest fix that actually sticks. Why we miss low left. I used to think my low left was just bad timing until I dug into the biomechanics and watched the pattern repeat, even when I slowed my trigger. The real issue is sympathetic movement. When you pull the trigger, the tendons and muscle compartments in the hand and forearm often fire together, so the index finger cannot always move alone. Neurophysiology studies call this the enslaving effect, where motor unit recruitment links neighboring digits. That biological wiring explains why verbal coaching to press the trigger slowly usually only helps a little. Top shooters understand this, and train isolation because the body is wired to cooperate, not to isolate. You can prove it in one rep at the range. Get a solid sight picture, then intentionally tighten your middle finger, and the sight will twitch. That involuntary movement, combined with asymmetrical front-to-back torque from the strong and support hands, produces the classic low left for right-handed shooters. I stopped treating misses as purely timing errors and started treating grip as part of the trigger system. Once I clamped every finger except the trigger finger and trained with dry fire and one-handed drills, the sympathetic twitch vanished and my groups tightened fast. No gadget, just anatomy-aware technique and focused practice. This pattern shows up across pistols and calibers. Whether you shoot a small 22 or a heavy 44, the tendon linkage is the same. That universality is why the crush grip works for revolvers and semi-autos, and why practicing isolation transfers across guns. Period. Why common fixes aren't enough. Sympathetic movement explains why slowing the trigger alone rarely fixes low left for right-handed shooters. Motor control research documents that neighboring digits often activate together because tendons and neural pathways overlap, so the index finger cannot always move in true isolation. This phenomenon, called the enslaving effect in biomechanics studies, shows up during real fast movements, like a live shot, and explains why simple timing cues only nudge outcomes. When I stopped treating trigger work as a solo task and started treating the hand as a system, my shooting changed. Maxing pressure with every non-trigger finger stabilizes the frame and makes those linked tendons work against a locked structure, allowing the trigger finger to pull cleaner. Coaches and elite shooters teach trigger isolation alongside consistent crush pressure because grip and trigger interact. Fix one without the other, and the involuntary squeeze still steals your sight picture. I adopted that combo, copying drills from competition work and focused practice methods. You will notice sight wobble drop immediately with dry fire and slow reps. Expect shaking at first while muscles reprogram, then steadying as the nervous system reweights control. Keep the trigger finger relaxed on the pad and pull straight back, while crushing non-trigger fingers into the grip. Add one-handed strength drills and ball and dummy sessions to expose flinch and accelerate transfer. That approach tightened my groups fast, and it will work across pistols and calibers if you train the hand as one system. Track groups and record changes to see real progress weekly. The one grip change. When I finally locked down the crush grip, I realized how wrong I'd been gripping my pistol for years. The concept sounds simple, but it's all about details. You grip that gun as hard as you physically can with every finger except the trigger finger. Studies on grip dynamics show that maximum force engagement in the flexor digitorum muscles stabilizes the entire hand structure and limits unwanted micromovement in the wrist. Competitive shooters like Rob Leatham and Jerry Mikulek have been teaching this for decades, explaining that high, consistent pressure allows the trigger finger to move independently while keeping the muzzle stable under recoil. You're creating a rigid platform where your trigger finger can act like a separate tool, not a part of the squeeze. The key is equalizing tension. I load my strong hand high into the backstrap, so the web locks against the beaver tail. My support hand wraps around, palm filling the empty space, thumbs pointed forward. I squeeze with both hands until I can feel my forearms tense up, but my trigger finger stays completely free. A 60/40 pressure split works best. 60% from the support hand, 40% from the strong hand. That ratio helps reduce torque, so when the gun fires, the recoil tracks straight back instead of twisting. The crush grip works because it saturates the hand's motor units, making sympathetic movement impossible. You're tricking your nervous system by leaving only one finger, the trigger finger, unloaded. When I started drilling it, the results were obvious. Dry fire showed zero front sight movement. Live fire gave instant feedback. The muzzle stayed dead still through the trigger brake, and the recoil impulse felt cleaner. Even heavier calibers like 45 ACP or 357 Magnum snapped straight up instead of diagonal. My split times got faster because the gun always came back to the same spot. Researchers in firearms biomechanics confirm that consistent grip pressure improves return to zero and minimizes lateral muzzle deviation, which explains the tighter groups. The trembling you feel at first is just muscle adaptation. Within a few sessions, your body tunes in, and that full-power grip becomes natural. Bet, once you master this, your shooting confidence jumps like crazy. The training plan. Start with dry fire now. I do 50 reps per session, where the only goal is to keep the front sight perfectly still through the trigger brake and follow through. That repetition builds the motor pathway you need without wasting ammo. Next, I run ball and dummy work to expose recoil anticipation and flinch. Use snap caps or inert rounds and load them randomly in magazines, so you get feedback when you jerk. 3 magazines alternating live and dummy will reveal the habit and let you correct it in the moment. One-handed drills are essential. Strong hand only and support hand only sessions force you to find a true crushing grip and develop isolation and wrist strength. I do 5x10 per hand twice weekly. Coaching sources show that one-handed work accelerates grip consistency and exposes lazy fingers. Make a simple live fire progression. First magazine, slow aimed shots at a close target. Second magazine, controlled normal pace. Third magazine, introduced reloads or movement. Track groups and mark which magazine you change the grip on so you can see the transfer. Use 150 dry repetitions per week as a benchmark and 5 to 10 ball and dummy magazines over the first month to ingrain the crush pattern. If your hands tremble, don't panic. Reduce session length, add single-handed strength work, and focus on quality over quantity. Stick with the plan, and you will see measurable group tightening within a session and reliable retention across weeks. Results, pitfalls, and close. Day 1, you will notice tighter groups and a calmer front sight, because loading every non-trigger finger changes how the hand resists movement. Expect tremors at first, since you are recruiting motor units and fatiguing muscles that were underused. Shorten sets, rest between reps, and focus on slow, precise dry fire until the shaking subsides. Track groups with tape or a small grid and log horizontal and vertical dispersion, so you can compare numerically. This method works across pistols from 22s to 45s because hand anatomy and tendon coupling are the same, and I went from 8-inch groups to 3 in one session when I committed to accurate reps. Avoid common mistakes that kill progress. Do not let the trigger finger curl or get jammed by other fingers because that destroys isolation and brings back low left misses. Watch thumb placement, since thumbs that press against each other or torque the frame cause lateral drift. Resist letting the support hand overpower the strong hand, and change front to back torque. Aim for balanced pressure. Do trigger reset work and return only to the reset point to stabilize follow-ups and prevent creeping errors. Follow a simple timeline. Week 1 target 150 quality dry reps, 3 ball and dummy magazines to expose flinch, and 2 one-handed strength sessions to build isolation. Week 2, keep dry reps and move to controlled live magazines while logging groups. By month 1, the crush grip should be automatic under stress. Recoil return will improve and your splits will tighten. Measure, log, and adjust. Try this session and post your numbers so we can diagnose problems and keep improving together. If you want, I will break down common errors in slow motion and show exact hand placement in the next clip today.